Hey Beamers, Jim Priest here. I'm sorry that I can't be with you for leadership training today, but I did want to participate, so the next best thing is for me to do this video and to talk with you for just a couple minutes about a concept that I'm really enthusiastic about and that we've been incorporating here at Sunbeam for the last 3 years, and that's our employee first culture. You probably heard about it, you've maybe even talked about it to other people. And I wanted to make sure that we were all singing off the same sheet of music when it comes to what this means. So the first thing I did is go back to this little book that we put together. Hopefully you can see that, Leadership Principles. And on page 18, we talk about the employee first culture. And here's what we say. The general approach and culture that we want to create and should be promoted by all leaders at Sunbeam is to be servant leaders and to put employees and team members first. This does not mean, and this is an important part, this does not mean that team members are always right or always get their way. What it does mean is that we place a high priority on listening well to employees, reinforcing good performance and behavior, and making Sunbeam the kind of place where team members love working. I think we've done a pretty good job of that over the past 3 years, and our awards as a best place to work reinforce that. So here's what I think sometimes people get a little bit confused about, and your role as leaders is to help clarify this confusion and make sure everybody understands what being an employee first culture means. In a nutshell, it's this. We highly value employees, and so we have to make decisions. We take into consideration, how does this impact the employees? Herb Kelleher of Southwest Airlines tells this great story that in the early years of Southwest Airlines, they were not doing very well. Financially, they had to make some decisions, and they were kind of faced with the prospect of laying off employees or selling an airplane. Now, when you're in the airline business, you might think, well, I can always get more employees, but airplanes are pretty hard to come by, and so I probably need to keep that airplane. But Herb made the decision to sell the airplane. And I don't know if they've ever had a layoff at Southwest Airlines, but probably not. I know that every employee I ever talked to at Southwest speaks highly of the company, and I always kind of take them aside when I'm on a Southwest flight and I say, hey, I've studied your company and I'm really interested. Is the hype really true? Do they really treat you well? And without exception, those employees have said yes. Now, that's not to say that Herb Kelleher hasn't done some things or made some decisions, or Southwest Airlines as a whole hasn't made some decisions at times that employees have not liked, and maybe even pinched them a little bit. But employees at Southwest Airlines know this, and I want Sunbeam employees to know this as well. Our employees are highly valued, and we don't subscribe to a philosophy that a lot of companies have. The customer is always right, or the client is always right. We will go to bat for you if there's an allegation made, in the context of an early childhood setting, or a senior, a counselor, a foster parent. If someone's making an allegation against one of our employees, we're going to investigate it fully and fairly. And if we think the employee is right, we're going to stand up for you. It does not mean, however, that employees always get their way. And we had an incident not too long ago where somebody, a supervisor, scheduled all the employees off in one particular area at the same time. Because they'd all put in requests. And when they were asked, why did you do that? That left that whole area without any employees. The supervisor said, well, because we're an employee-first organization. And while I love the spirit of that and the intention of it, our clients being served has got to be paramount in our minds at all times. So here's what I would encourage you to do. You got to think about this employee first culture in a balanced way. It means placing an extremely high value on employees, listening to them, affirming them, encouraging them, equipping them, and resourcing them so that they can be successful in their jobs. Sometimes it means having a very frank conversation with them. Maybe their performance has been lagging and you've worked with them. And for whatever reason, maybe they've got some stuff going on at home, or maybe they're just not motivated anymore. There may come a time where you have to sit down and have a tough conversation with them and tell them it looks like this is not a good fit and you might be happier elsewhere. That's a tough conversation, and some people might think that's not an employee-first conversation, but it is. Because it's extremely important that we always be honest with one another, candid, having constructive conversations, sometimes that cause a little conflict, but ultimately that get us to where we need to be as individuals and Sunbeam needs to be as an agency. So, I appreciate your leadership in your areas of responsibility. It's not always easy to be a leader. Sometimes you think, well, the leaders have got it made because they're just leading the charge and they're not in the trenches, but I know that's not the case. You are in the trenches and you're leading, and those are challenging responsibilities sometimes. So I'm with you, I'm for you, and I hope you will adopt that same approach with your employees, the people that you supervise, the Beamers that you're engaging and equipping and resourcing to be successful. Remind them that we're an employee-first organization and we're behind them, but do it in a balanced way that also communicates that the needs of our clients are of paramount importance to us. Thanks for listening, and I hope the rest of your supervisory training goes great.